Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari. It's a fine Wednesday, and we're still looking at, it's like a post-mortem of the elections generally. And so today, our guest is Comrade Awal Musa Rafsanjani. Comrade Rafsanjani is chair of the Transition Monitoring Group, as well as the executive director of Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, CISLAC. Good morning to you, Comrade Rafsanjani.
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, great you could join us. Well, the election, as I'm just, we just take one of the headlines, the president-elect saying that, look, the election is over. It's time for healing. So, of course, that means that quite a bit went down during the elections, in spite of perhaps everybody's best efforts. So let's look at the election. And by the way, you might have seen that in the midst of a lot of doom and gloom, well, a major foreign paper, has actually rated the polls high. I'm talking about the Washington Post editorial board column, even though it didn't shy away from the fact that there are glitches. But nevertheless, the election was rated quite high there, which is not the same as to say that it was flawless, it was perfect. Nobody's saying that. But give me your sense, sir, of how it went.
Thank you very much.
An assessment from you.
Good morning, viewers. Yeah. So the Transition Monitoring Group, TMG, Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, CISLAC, Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, election analysis, they've all observed the election, and many other civil society organizations in Nigeria, and they actually came up with various observations they observed during the election. And for Transition Monitoring Group, we have seen the election in two ways. There are some positive development within the conduct of the election itself and its outcomes. And there are also a lot of challenges that characterize the election, which also create a serious credibility if these challenges are not addressed forthcoming. So we have seen this election from the challenges side of view. We have seen this election with a lot of voter repression, a lot of vote trading, in fact, total commercialization of the votes. We have also seen generalized violence across the country. We have also seen the use of ethnic and religious card in many places. We have also seen the challenges that INEC had also in terms of meeting with the expectation of Nigerians, especially with the first election. We have also seen, in the positive side of it, we have also seen how the use of technology had actually prevented massive monumental rigging, because the use of BFAS, the use of technology generally, had prevented many politicians from escalating their rigging. In the past, you'll be hearing 2 million, 1 million. Now, with the use of technology, which means that you must actually be registered, you must be given, voter card, you must be verified as a voter. So it was very difficult for the politician to substitute this process and do the rigging they will want to do in a very mass scale. We have also seen how people have actually depended their votes. In many places, for example, in Kano, people resisted attempted to manipulate and rig their aspiration out. So you could see for 2 days, many voters did not sleep. They stood by what they have voted, and they defended their votes. This could also be said in Zamfara, and some other places. Again, another positive side of it is that this election shows us the power of people. There are some powerful sitting governors who people had initially given up because of the use of money, use of also militia, use of all sorts of things to favor them. But people resisted and voted them out. That is courtesy of the electoral revolution that happened in Nigeria, which civil society advocated for the reforms of the Electoral Act, which gave confidence to Nigerians to believe that the election can actually be free, fair, and credible. So we can see that while there are implications for democracy in Nigeria with regard to the election and the conduct of the election and the outcome of it, we could see that if we can build on the success of the election itself, we can be able to make progress in our democratic consolidation in Nigeria. It is true that a lot of people were unhappy with the way and manner in which they were prevented from casting their votes because of the way and manner in which some politicians have decided to prevent them. But at the same time, we have also seen the resilience, the determination of Nigerians to express their view through electing the people or the party they believe in, which is also good. So in some places you have balance of terror. In some places, some people, especially where you have ruling party in a state, they oppress, repress, and dealt decisively with anybody who did not go their way. So there's need for us as a nation to ensure that we carry a total review of the election that took place in 2023 with view to identifying those fundamental flaws and gaps that we can address in the subsequent election. You recall, when Erdogan was elected, he did not deny the fact that he had challenges on his election. In fact, as a matter of fact, he admitted that there were some challenges and he was determined to ensure that those challenges pointed out by both civil society and even the INEC itself, as well as international observers, are addressed. So we owed the current president-elect to also not deny or ignore challenges associated with this election generally, but to set up a determination to ensure that those gaps are squarely dealt with view to restore confidence on the Nigerian electoral, because if people continue to lose hope and confidence, and the government, whether the opposition or the ruling party, continue to pretend that there's no problem, then that's where the challenges are. So, but if we admit as a nation that we need to do something to, revamp the electoral process in the country so that we can put more confidence and hope on Nigerians, I think it's better for us.
Indeed. As you said, the election, because of the introduction of technology, it prevented what we used to see before. You were mentioning that you just be getting figures in the hundreds of thousands, millions. But because of technology, because of the BVAS system, that was much, much, much more reduced than we have ever seen. But even having said that, there still is the challenge that human input, just as INEC was doing all that it could. INEC has received commendation for the BVAS. You even mentioned that favorably just now for the BVAS. But there were technical challenges. I think, among others, they've cited the whole matter about data and networking. There were technical challenges, and that has become an issue. As you know, some political, gladiators have latched onto that and have said that, in fact, the way they phrased it is that INEC wasn't even obeying its own rules. That's to one side. You know, it's important, it's to one side. But when you look at it, there also are other problems like, for example, how shall we resolve the matter? In fact, they're not even, I don't think we're waiting to resolve the matter. The president has said that he's quite happy that the votes of Nigerians are now seem to be counted, and we want that to go, you know, to be improving in leaps and bounds. But there still is the other, some of the things you were mentioning. Now, President-elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has said that the election is over. It's now time for healing. Some of those things you talk about, ethnic slurs, you know, behaviors, you know, and the violence reported in pockets. Because you said it was up and down the country. Yeah, but it wasn't as if it overshadowed the election, is the question I'm asking. Do you think it overshadowed the election? You know, deplorable as those incidents of violence, you know, were, you know, there are people who are saying that, look, we have something we can work with here.
Well, I think it's important that Nigerians respect human rights of Nigerians, of fellow Nigerians. Even if it is one person we lost as a result of violence, we should not pretend that it doesn't matter. I think human lives are important, are valuable, and you know, we should not overlook if we have lost, you know, lives of Nigerians. You will agree with me, a lot of people have been killed in a very terrible way. For example, in Kano, a very powerful politician, you know, was accused of killing or masterminding the killing of innocent people simply because of election. I don't think we should overlook this. What I'm trying to say,
I don't need to tell you that we have to be very, very careful when we talk about a lot of killings. You know, I don't need to tell you that because one has to be very careful. There were, you know, there certainly were, there was violence. But I'm not trying to argue with you now, but from there, this, you know, deplorable violence to a lot of killings. I don't know if you want to sort of stand by that.
My brother, let us not do this political statement. Human beings are human beings. Even if it is one person
nobody's
that lost
arguing
his
that
life
point.
or her life,
nobody's arguing that point.
Listen, because you are trying to underrate what we have observed. We've seen a lot of people killed, and you are saying that we should not make it look as if it is a problem.
No. Please,
in other places where they respect human rights,
all I was just
in
saying,
other places, where they respect human rights,
you are the guest. So
yes,
you will say your mind.
So what I'm saying is that
when you say a lot of killings up and down the line.
Observe. Okay. In English, when you say a lot, it's more than one. Okay? Or will you just say one person is killed? Listen, the thing is that let us admit that there were certain, you know, problems associated with what had happened in both the presidential and the gubernatorial election. If you
that much has been admitted already.
As a nation, you should be worried. Yeah, so that is it. So, but let us not undermine or underestimate or undervalue, you know, because it is one person or two. No, we have data of where incident of violence happens, and we should admit it. Like I said, Eradua admitted that there were problems with this election, and you set up a committee, committee with the reputable Nigerians to look at the challenges with the electoral law in the country, and they did a very fantastic work. And I'm urging President-elect Ahmed Bola Tinubu to also look at where, you know, what he can do to address those concerns, not to overlook it, not to pretend that there was no problem. President Buhari has not helped the matter. What I expected both Ahmed Bola Tinubu and Buhari to do is to say that, yes, this election was conducted. We noted that there were some challenges, but government will do everything possible to address it. It's more appealing and it's more responsible than to completely ignore and think that, you know, everything should go the way it is the way it has gone in their own way. I think it is important as
all right, comrade.
so that we can
if I could get a word
respect.
in. Thank you very much, comrade. Just to correct any impression you might have had that maybe it was my communication. the important thing is that nobody, just as you have said, nobody would dare to belittle the pockets of violence. Nobody would dare in Nigeria today to say that because it was one killing or two killings, it can be ignored. That's not what we're saying at all. And so that's not what is being said. In fact, I was saying to you that the president-elect has said that he has decried those ones that, you know, that you can't avoid. He has said that it's not something, it saddens him. And I think it goes without saying, as you were just saying yourself, sir, that these people are going to, you know, do their best to address it. So I just wanted to clear that up, especially as you were using phraseology, so that we shouldn't ignore, we shouldn't belittle. No such intention. It might have been my inadequacy of communication that I might have given that impression. I hope that's clear, sir. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
That's fine. And thanks for that clarification.
Okay. All right then. So, but the other question I was asking, haven't taken due cognizance of, you know, how odious, how so much not Nigerian, not us, all of that is. I was making the suggestion that we still have what we can work with. I don't know how you see it, whether you agree. We still have what we can work with. Go ahead, please.
Definitely. The alternative to what we have is chaos, and that's not what we want. The election had happened. We as civil society, as TMG, you know, we have noted some of this, you know, concern, and we are advocating because we are coming up with a recommendation to the government to see how they can address those lapses. You know, for example, they need to establish Electoral Offences Commission so that people will not have incentive to be committing violence and get away with it. I think we also, you know, say that we have commended the effort of EFCC and ICPC because at least their presence had helped to minimize the scandalous commercialization of the vote. So there are some, you know, good signs that we have observed, and we have also seen how INEC, you know, especially in the gubernatorial election, they have also made sure that the DBAS works in many places, and they also came in time. So we cannot completely say that the election is useless, no. Because like I mentioned earlier, there are some places, for example, in Kano, the people of Kano, they elected who they wanted. And in 2019, their wishes were truncated. This time around, their wishes were actually respected. This I'm seeing in many other places. You know, so it's not that completely everything is bad, and we must, of course, acknowledge that we are ready as a nation to see how we can address gaps and lapses. You know, and I commend the president-elect for his, you know, willingness to have a government that will also, you know, heal those political wounds, because if you like, a lot of people, you know, felt that so many things went wrong in the way things are, and if he's willing to, you know, bring everyone together with emphasis of course, trying to make sure that we unify the nation, we also run a competent, qualified, transparent, and accountable government. Definitely, that's what we are looking for. So we want to urge the president-elect to ensure that, you know, he do whatever he could to ensure that the country is united, so that all this ethnic and religious tension can go, so that with good governance, people can actually be compensated. Nigerians are not looking for this 2,500 naira. They are looking for good governance. They are looking for justice. They are looking for accountable and transparent leadership. Once he is able to put in place those things, I believe that people will, you know, agree that yes, the nation is ready to move forward.
And also, I think it's a matter of worthy of note that there are processes that have even been put to use. Should you have any, you know, any place where you don't agree or you're not happy with anything, there are judicial processes. Law courts are there, tribunals are there, and already, as you can see, some of those who participated in the election are taking advantage of that. And just thank God for that, that there are those avenues, so people won't feel a certain frustration that there's nowhere or no avenue to hear their grievances. So that, I suppose, also must be put on the, the plus side of this particular sheet.
Yeah, definitely. If people strongly have evidence of where they think they have a case to make, of course, the judiciary is there for them to move forward with their issue. It's all a matter of fact and evidence available to the judiciary. And I believe that despite the challenges that people are having in terms of confidence for the judiciary, I believe that we still have men and women of integrity that they can see things, and do the case, with fairness and, all that it requires to ensure that justice is done. But I also want to appeal to many Nigerians that those who know that they have no any case, let them not even waste their money and their time, because they will only continue to suffer double losses. If you are not able to gather evidence and facts, prevailing evidences, I don't think it is wise for you to go and waste their money and resources, because now to go to any court, to seek for this, sometimes you will see that the resources you spend, is too much. But let's make sure that the judiciary do also justice. If there are cases that have merit, please let our judiciary also do the needful to ensure that justice is done. But where candidates did not have sufficient fact, I will urge them to use their energy and anger to rebuild either their party or their political fortune, to make sure that in the subsequent election they are able to market their programs, their manifesto, to be able to convince Nigerians to vote for them either at local, state, or at national level. I would rather encourage Nigerians to have more amicable resolution of some of these issues than to continue to just suffer in the hands of the judiciary, because
Indeed.
The amount of money that both lawyers and the judiciary probably will collect from the person, he will rather not even go, because if at the end of the day he or she did not get the justice, that is double lost.
The fact that, very, very well said, sir, and the fact that everybody has this avenue of expression through the judiciary, it's very important. The presidential candidate of the Labour Party, for instance, as you know, took advantage of yesterday being the last day, within the sort of deadline for making such complaints, to urge INEC to either declare him. He originally came third in that particular contest, but he has asked INEC to declare him the winner, or alternatively cancel the entire election. So, but all of this is within a structured environment where it can be looked at with level heads, and we'll see how far it goes. So one can't overstate the fact that the courts are available to everybody.
Well, I mean, the thing is that, some politicians, they will always want to do that. But for me, when it is very clear, when it is very obvious that, a candidate, whether at State Assembly, whether at the National Assembly election, whether it is gubernatorial election or presidential election, if you know truly you do not win, I will even respect that you simply accept and congratulate those who won, because that will also show maturity in our political development. Unless you have a prevailing fact and evidence that you are actually cheated, then you can then decide to use the option of the court, because we must not resort to using any means outside non-violence process to pursue our own case. Because as organizations, as people, we have been advocating non-violence electoral process in the country, because violence does not in any way make us, regain what we have lost. So, but through the judicial, through, public contestization and mobilization, we can continue to make case. And if Nigerians see clear injustice in you, Even if this time around you did not succeed, next time you can have opportunity. But for me, I would never advise or advocate anybody to use any means outside non-violence, process, because we are already depleted, as people. A lot of Nigerians have suffered enough, terrorism. A lot of Nigerians have suffered enough poverty and hopelessness. So for anybody to come and want to use another means that will take the lives of Nigerians, we will definitely resist that, and we will strongly advise those who want to promote such kind of agenda to stay away from it, because Nigerians have already suffered a lot in the hands of wicked public officials.
Yeah. Okay. And even when I said the Labour candidate of, the candidate of Labour, Mr. Peter Obi, it wasn't just him. I believe that there were other presidential candidates that also sort of separately, also put their action forward. But I'll tell you what, Comrade Rafsanjani. So we've discussed earlier certain aspects of the election and the fact that, not all of it, it didn't go off flawlessly. Yes, there were flaws there. But we've said that it's not a situation where you can actually throw out everything. There are situations. Now, the president-elect has actually sued for peace and has said that it's essential that we go into, from election time, from campaign time, from politicking time, right into healing time, which is where we're at now. That is made, those are the right kind of sounds that we are expecting, isn't it? Because now he's president, will be, as soon as he's sworn in, he's president of all. It doesn't matter what the party is. So moving into the phase of healing, we've seen things in this election that I don't think we've seen as much before, up to the same intensity. And here I'm talking about allegations of ethnic, religious profiling. We had people call in yesterday, for instance, to tell us that they, in their centers, were not permitted to vote. Somebody phoned in, and said that he wasn't allowed to vote just because he was said to be looking like someone from a certain part of the country. So we had those unfortunate situations. But all of these have been noted by the president-elect, and he has commented on it. He hasn't shied away from it. So I suppose this is exactly in the right direction, as you were saying earlier.
Yeah, well, so, I'm happy that he has is determined to look at some of those, grievances and concern that had happened during the election. But it is not only him as the president-elect. Other institutions of government also need to take note of some of those gaps associated with the way they do their own work, so that we can have overall reforms in the way and manner in which we conduct election in Nigeria. Look, Nigeria is spending a lot of money to conduct election. Each time we are going to election, as if the country is going into a war, you close the borders, no flight, no train, no road, transport. Everywhere is closed, no market. Haba, this is not how election is done everywhere in the world.
But one moment, comrade. Let me bring in a caller. A phone call has come. I beg your pardon. A phone call has come in from one of our viewers, Maze Okoroafo in Arochukwu. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Sayori. Sayori, this post-mortem about this our election,
yes,
whether president or governor or House Assembly. There is something that I want the federal government to address now in Abia State and Enugu State.
Okay.
Now you ask yourself, election in Abia State have been taken to Abuja and that of Enugu State. Now, the federal government should listen. The problem we have in Abia State, that's my own state.
Yes.
There's what they call Ngwa people, Ngwa age. Ngwa people feel that the government belongs to that they will install whosoever that will be a governor. Which the people are saying, no, that this issue of governorship, it must rotate. The Ngwa people are nice. That is why you see, they don't allow the results that were counted from Ngwa land to be announced. They want to carry it to Abuja. For what? You go down to Enugu, the same thing. The Wawa people don't want anybody from another place except the people from Wawa area. Is that how we are going to run this country? It's a particular tribe will see that the country belongs to them. And as the federal government, I don't know this issue of statism, the local government, the federal government has to address this issue. Because when you come to a state, a particular tribe sit down and forget about what happened in Lagos. What happened in Lagos? You know what happened in Abia State and Enugu State. Now, the question is this. The Nigerians have to be very, very careful. Now they have turned the House Assembly and take ownership into tribal sentiment. It will create a very big problem. You ask yourself, is that how we are going to get development? Now, why must you sit down and see that if it's not from your own side, the government will move forward? So I'm going to President Muhammadu Buhari, as a matter of fact, and our Malam Justice Minister, to look into this issue of Abia State and Enugu State, because it is not healthy. But if you allow this type of thing to continue going on, there will be development in any country. There will not be development in any state or local government. Because I can't imagine that people are talking about tribe. Is that what it is? Now, when you go to a place, you stay for 60 or 10 years, you're practically an indigenous of that place. But in Nigeria today, upon the whole houses and the whole structures of the social responsibility you take over, people there don't regard as a human being. Is that how we are going to work? Because government is for everybody, not for particular people. Because if you allow this to continue, it's not good. But the Nigerian government has to. Now, the G5 or G4, whatever, I think G4, all of them fall as casualty. Only one, or your man, that escaped that G5. I pray there will no other G5 or G10. Good morning, Sayuri.
Thank you very much for calling in, Mazi Okorafor. Comrade Rafsanjani, there you go. That's one other aspect of it.
Yes.
We're talking about anxiety in Enugu and Abia, where that gentleman called from. And you were actually just about to, start expanding a bit on the issue of ethnicism, and religion, tribalism, and all of that. That I think we've not seen it as heightened as this before.
Yeah, so I just want to draw the attention of Nigerians that this so-called ethnic and religious agitation does not bring any good governance, does not bring any transparent and accountable leadership. As a matter of fact, when you break it down, you will see what happened now in Enugu and Abia. It is the same tribe, but the fight, or rather the disagreement, is heightened as big as like the one that it was escalated.
No, they're
both only
the same tribe, but they are subdividing.
Now, yeah, exactly. So the issue I'm trying to raise here is that anything that is outside good governance, anything that is outside transparent and accountable processes, it is just a borrowed sentiment. You use all the sentiment to get in somebody to get there because of your identity or because you believe that you share the same identity with him or with her. At the end of the day, that person will even be more wicked than the other, person you're talking about. Which means that we need to come back to the drawing line, which is about having, competent, qualified, transparent, accountable, patriotic public official to be entrusted or to be trusted with powers, not on the basis of because I am from this clan or from this tribe or from this region or from this religion. I think the way and manner in which religious leaders in Nigeria have actually, helped to escalate this hatred, I think it is absolutely unacceptable. You see, the religious leaders must accept that they are actually part and parcel of the problems we encounter in 2023 because they've turned their places of worship to political rallies, whereas in other places, that is not what we see. People emphasize and talk about, merit. Yeah, talk about merit and talk about, quality of governance. But in the case of Nigeria, because some religious leaders, they found that it is like a big business for them. Let us be frank, because I don't like to pretend. I don't know how to pretend. Some religious leaders use their own religious identity to market, all this hatred and division. We must stop that. We are all Nigerians, and we should demand for accountability.
Okay, let me bring in Dr. Morgan. Dr. Morgan is calling in from the UK. Good morning to you, Dr. Morgan.
Thank you. Uncle Yori, my name is also Uncle Book.
Okay.
Good morning,
I
sir.
have served in the good morning to you. I have served in the Nigerian Armed Forces as a flight surgeon for several years.
Okay.
So I virtually know all the coup plotters that are now in command and control in the nation. Now, what I'm trying to say for short is that what has gone on now is a transgression of democratic processes. And we are being asked to accept this as a fair complaint. Now, it will not work. I'm sorry to tell you, it will not work. This is all against constitutional authority. It's against United Nations policy that if you allow it to go through, it will mean getting the evildoers to take over command and control of our nation. And I don't think as a true and patriotic Nigerian, you will want that to happen. You know, it is okay for the plutocrats in power with their money, who have stolen money to get into power, to control, to want to continue their dominance. The average Nigerian is from the village setting. He hasn't got that kind of Tinubu has that all these other people have. And with that kind of money, they are trying to bamboozle and rule over us indefinitely. This is the point that I'm trying to stress.
Okay.
This indefinite command and control will not go on. Forget all these arguments that we are just at this level of development, blah, 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 blah. It's all hogwash. Hogwash.
But
it won't hold.
Okay. Okay, Dr. Morgan. But thank you very much for calling in. I didn't want to, but you just heard him, Comrade Rafsanjani. You heard him. I don't need to repeat what he said. But as I said,
the truth of,
go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
The truth of the matter is that if you take the election at the local level, let's say the state level, of what had happened, what we observed, like the previous caller had mentioned, in Enugu, in Abia, and many places, they share the same identity, the same religion, the same ethnic, background, but this impunity is happening. So it is not really about the religion or the ethnic, identity that can bring about good governance, that will bring food for you, that can bring peace for you. It is about having, electing people who are competent, who are qualified, who are not corrupt, who are, patriotic, who cares about the people, that can help bring the difference. But if you continue to be blind, to listen to those who have already been settled, allegedly, to preach all this hate thing, they have already gotten their own large share, even in dollar and pound sterling and plot and promises of all appointment and co. You that you are a poor woman or poor person, they just give you 2,000 naira and you are, being low to go and be fighting and to be abusing and insulting and disrupting the election. I think Nigerians should be, wiser now. For example, in Kano, despite the heavy money provided for the boat trading, people still insisted that they must vote the one that they want. So I want to urge other states, other places, to also stand firm, not to be, cajoled or to be, blackmailed by this so-called 2,000, 5,000 naira thing, which will not even help them feed themselves for one day. Let people have personal integrity that, look, I am voting this thing based on my conscience, based on my conviction that this party or this person, when he or she gets in there, is going to do what we want as people, not what he is going to, because once he gave you that money, he has no business with you. In the next 4 years, you will not see road, you will not see hospital, you will not see quality education, you will not see any social amenities that can improve your life. Even more important,
okay, before we go, comrade, before we go, comrade, sorry, comrade, for interrupting you, but before we go, I wanted to take your impressions on the other remarkable thing about these elections just concluded, and that's about the low or the poor turnout rate that we've heard. were in the 30s, percentage, 30 percentage points. Considering the enthusiasm that you saw, give me your take on the fact that turnouts were low.
The truth of the matter is that Nigerians have been very disappointed in the last 7 years. And many of them, they believe that even though we have actually, as civil society, we mobilize Nigerians to register and collect their PBC. But as they were going, Nigerians are just not really enthusiastic to come out because they believe that, first, many of them had the impression that their vote will not count. Secondly, they believe that the corruption has overwhelmed the nation, that nothing is going to change. So that stigma of impression contributed to the way some people did not actually bother to come. The third thing is that for example, in the North, there was so much belief of President Buhari in 2015 and even 2019. And when some people see that their life has not been protected, not talk of improving their living standard, as you can see that all the indices of development, including poverty, including security, have gone down. So many of them, they say, look, there was no need for them to come. But it's wrong, because the more you stay away, the more those people who will not care about you will come. And I can tell you that in some places where they did, protest boards, came out to vote and defend their vote, you could see that they can hold the people accountable. I cannot imagine where people really fought hard to make sure that either it is the Labour Party or the PDP or the APC that they have done, or even the NNPP, in the case of Kano. I did not expect that people will just stay without engaging their representatives to ensure that they are doing things that is, going to help improve the lives of the people through, enacting legal framework and policy and implementation. So it is dangerous to stay away, because if you stay away, these one-chance leaders will take over. So that is why It is important that we insist, right from the party primaries, we should insist that our political parties are reforms, so that there is internal democracy, so that members of the political party, a particular political party, will be the determining factor of who will emerge in the party primaries, not this cash and carry that we see in many of the party primaries elections. TMG observe all those lapses.
That's a fine place to leave it, comrade. Thank you very much. Going forward, to other elections, all these things that you've just said will be, very, very important. And people to actually take on their civic responsibility, as opposed to maybe getting your PVC, but not caring on the day itself. That has to change. Thank you very much, Comrade Awal Musa Rafsanjani, Chairman, Transition Monitoring Group and Executive Director, Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, CISLAC. Thank you very much once more, Comrade, for coming on our program today.